Hey, gang, welcome to the holiday edition of the Ross and Nez live stream experience podcast and live show. And folks, let me just say that this is totally by accident, okay? I was not even conscious of what color I was wearing. And then Nez comes on with a little bit different version of the same thing. And I'm like, okay, we got to pretend this is the holiday special because otherwise this looks completely ridiculous. So thanks to Be Live, we have these cool frames, and all of a sudden we've got a whole holiday thing going on here.
Well, Ross, it'd be nice if you could iron your shirt. Then things would really look beautiful.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you're watching the wardrobe.
I think this is really appropriate. If there's anybody who can bring Santa Claus to the foray, it's us two.
Yes.
I mean, in all proportions, in all facets.
We are completely about the season of giving. Look, Nez, it's snowing now.
I love this. I think this is absolutely beautiful. I've never felt more Christmas-y in my entire life. Holy mackerel.
There comes Santa right down the
no wonder, with
parachuting. I didn't know he used the parachute. That's fantastic.
I think we're going to make it big, kid. I think we got it now.
I think we got it. Here he comes with the gifts and everything. It's fantastic. Happy holidays, everybody. We are going to have a fun show. There's so much going on in live streaming and in social media, and I don't even know where to begin, but let's start with Facebook because we're on Facebook when we do our show live. It's probably the most popular of the networks, even as people like to diss it and whatever. So Facebook is coming out with this algorithm change, Nez, where basically they're looking for what they call engagement click. And from what I understand, it's if you post something that doesn't have really much value other than you're trying to get somebody to comment so that you can boost it in the algorithm through the number of likes and comments and things like give us a like and click and say and comment yes if you like the holidays, right? And that's the entirety of the post. And the idea is to get as many people to click, thumbs up and love and type yes in the comments, and all of a sudden your page or whatever, your page's post is now getting a boost in the algorithm. Well, instead you're going to get penalized in the algorithm if you post something like that, and your page can get penalized as well. So it's important to stay on the right side of the Facebook law and the algorithm. We know how pretty much how difficult it is already to get organic reach from a page. Now there are even more challenges as Facebook wants to make sure you aren't trying to game the system and that your content has some value.
Yeah, because the people are getting smarter and smarter. Marketers, content creators are getting smarter and smarter and savvier. But this, I think, levels the playing field. And before I even get started on this, I just want to make a small observation. Notice how, and I apologize to the podcast listeners, but notice how my shirt is much richer, much more colorful. Whereas Ross's, it kind of looks like you fell asleep at the bus station. But I just want to point that out.
Have you been saving that up all introduction?
I wrote that down in 1999.
Your writers gave you that.
I've been wanting to use that joke since.
If it didn't go over well, you would blame the writers, huh?
Of course, you
really got to come up with your own material, Ness.
I've got 3 guys living in a trunk in the basement. They write all my stuff.
A trunk. The basement isn't bad enough. You have to keep them in a trunk as well.
Yeah, because I don't want to feed them all the time. See, here's the thing is, and I don't want to hear their complaints. This is to me a strong statement by Facebook. Basically what they're saying is quality wins, right? I mean, there's only so much gamifying that you can do. There's only so much people who study the algorithm like a science and it's not based on merit. It's not based on the quality of your content, but they're getting that extra push. It's almost, I don't even think it's hard to get organic reach. I think it's impossible to get organic reach on Facebook now. It seems like, unless you really got something cooking, you're not going to get anything, you're not going to get much help from the algorithm, right? So God forbid if you post anything from YouTube or Google or what have you, native video and live video seems to get the biggest push. But I think this is a great move because they're basically calling out and saying that, look, we want to try to be as transparent as possible. We want actual engaging quality content to win, and not people who are just gamifying it. Look at that. Tim Knox is in the house. What up, Tim? How are you?
Tim?
Leslie
Nance is here. Leslie Nance is here. So is
Leslie.
Larry's here. Who else?
Hold on a second. Let me ask Tim. Tim, who's got the nicer shirt? Be honest now, for crying out loud. I mean, look at this.
Yeah, well, some of us don't need to do as much to embellish your overall appearance.
You mean this $5 haircut's not going to really help me at all?
I thought they raised it to $7.
They did. They did. But since I'm a long-standing,
but the value's still at $5.
The value is actually a lot lower than that.
They grandfathered you in.
Yeah. Well, they started introducing lollipops in 1997. So.
All right, so that ups the value. I got it.
Tim says, "Aren't they the same?" No, For Tim, get some glasses, will you? My shirt is much richer. It's much more colorful. It's much newer.
Yeah.
Much more Christmassy, I think.
Let me put.
Is Christmassy an adjective? I don't know if Christmassy is an
adjective.
Look at
that. It's snowing all over your nonsense.
That's not the first time, folks. That is not the first time.
So yeah, I mean, I think Nez actually, believe it or not, got something right on this one.
Give me an umbrella.
That it's all about the high quality content, and really Facebook saying there isn't much value in content that just gets somebody to click a reaction or type something in. And if you agree with that, please type something in the chat. Like and do please share this, because I do not believe believe that the algorithm can pick up voice yet. So feel free to load us up on likes and comments and shares, everybody. We do love you and we do appreciate it. But Tim
has a great comment. He says, "Why is Ross so much taller than Nez?" I think Ross did that on purpose. It's a superiority complex.
You never. Why is Nez like down there? Like he's.
I look like I should.
I look like you're in a lab or something, and you're like, you're dissecting an organ or a frog or something.
I'm the elf to Ross's Santa. I mean, I should be working on snow globes right now or something.
Okay.
Leslie says you guys planned. We actually, I swear on everything, we did not plan this. Our shirts, our attire, but we're so in sync. I still think I have a nicer shirt. We're so in sync that it just came out.
Not only didn't we plan it, we didn't have any clue that this was going to until we looked at the image and we're like, well, this looks sort of holiday-ish. Good thing Be Live gives us these great frames that are holiday spirited, and now we can just make the whole thing work.
Right.
But getting back to Facebook, I think it's not a problem. At least this is what I'm from reading what different people posted. I don't think it's a problem if you're doing a live stream or you have valuable content and also you ask for a comment or a reaction. It's the things like we had mentioned earlier where you're just seeking that click and nothing else. So what becomes interesting is a lot of people are using messenger bots to notify people about when their show takes place. Fortunately, neither of us are tech savvy enough to have done that, so we don't really need a change of strategy yet. And look, Nez, you're sitting up. Did the teacher come around and tell you to sit up in class?
I put a phone book underneath me.
This guy's tall in real life. I was shocked. Was shocked.
Emotionally tall.
No, you're an emotional midget. But you stand.
Hey,
tall.
I'm creative.
Very good. Hey,
good to see Larry Snow.
Yeah. Let it snow. Let us know
what you guys think of this new Facebook update too. Like, what do you like working with Frodo? We got to have Tim on the show. We have to.
Yeah. What I was saying anyway is if you throw in post about bots, not about bots, but just say type reminder if you want to get a reminder for our show at X time, and then it'll show up in somebody's messenger. That I'm not sure, right? Like, I'm not sure if that's something you have to be careful of, because Facebook may think that that's whether the algorithm picks that up as clickbait or not. You are alerting.
I would think that they're more predominantly concerned with the news feed, because that's Facebook's bread and butter. But I wouldn't be surprised if that translates over to Messenger. Messenger is growing exponentially.
Well, Nez, you missed the point. Yes, but
that's a huge shock.
Yes, but in order to get that into Messenger, get that notification through Messenger, you have to post in the news feed, right? You post in the news feed, type reminder or type notify or something like that. You put a post up so you get people to type that, and then they can get their reminder. So it's a question of whether a post like that will run afoul of Facebook's new algorithm or not. And I guess we just have to wait and see.
It's every time that any of these platforms come up with a new feature, there's a lot of kinks in the armor, right? So I think that it's going to start with, exactly what, we were mentioning earlier, with just basic clickbaity newsfeed posts. And once Messenger, gets involved and they kind of elaborate and they make it more sophisticated, it'll be interesting to see, because again, I think this is a good thing. I think this is a fantastic thing, because, hey, Kim Doyle's in the house.
Hey,
Fork it over radio. I know, strike that, Nez. We're used to striking a lot of what Nez says. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, Fork it over radio is Leslie Nance's radio
cool.
she does on Saturday mornings. So check that out, people.
Awesome.
Go ahead, Nez.
No, was I saying
anything? You off? I think you were talking.
Was I saying anything important?
Might have been. Probably not.
Okay, yeah.
Here you go. Here's your first opportunity.
Here's my first opportunity. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's an exclusive. It's a brand breaking news.
Episode 8.
Nez is going to say something interesting. This is a first. No, but I think quality. That's the key. So what really gets the engagement? What really forces you to click that like button? Is it really that hard to get a like, a share, a comment, engagement? I think it's harder than ever, because there is so much competition and people are so, interested in the next thing, and that thumb scrolls faster than a speeding bullet, and everybody's on mobile. So I think actually this is going to up the ante, because likes, shares, and comments, I mean, it's very difficult to get that unless your stuff really sings, right? I'd love to hear what people think in the comments.
Yeah, you're not going to hear Nez sing.
Tim says waiting for Nez to say something intelligent is like waiting on a monkey to type a novel.
Oh, genius, Kim.
How do you know me so well, Tim? Get out of here, Tim. Don't you have some work
that was
to do?
Tim. I was thinking it was Kim. I thought you said Kim. That was Tim. Fantastic.
Kim probably thinks the same thing, but she's polite.
I've never met Tim, but
Tim
I like Tim already. I really do. This guy's fantastic.
Hey, Tim, with friends like you, who needs enemies?
Yeah. Welcome, Claudia Santiago. I'm not getting the comments in my producer window here, so
for the love of God, you're fired, Ross.
Yes, it's my fault. But if you can continue to read the comments to keep yourself busy and useful while I talk, that would be appreciated. So you can bring them in.
I'm so happy that I actually have a use now.
Yes. So there you go.
Well, what do you think, Ross? I mean, what do you think of this new feature? Do you agree with what I said? That's a dangerous question.
Boy, do I agree. I mean, I'm scared to say yes, but I do. I really do think that there is so much crap, for lack of a being able to use more of an SAT word. There's so much nonsense and garbage in our news feed. And I really, I mean, and I know none of our people do this, but, I love those posts where, like, I'm wondering if anybody pays attention. If I'm going to be cleaning out my friends, type yes if you'd like. If that isn't the most self-important nonsense. If I read one of those, it's like, please unfriend me now.
Yeah, and I'm also some of these I hope they really hunker down on these other questions where it's like, how would you feel if blank, happened yesterday or tomorrow? I don't know. It's just like, come on, type, fill in the blank, the blank below. Would you do this? and that's like an immediate unfollow. I'm just like, I'm done later. I have like I think 2 friends now on Facebook, and Ross isn't one of them. It's scary.
No, but I am considering the request. I figure by show 10, by show 10, I'll have a better idea.
I probably lost about 1,000 friends right now on this broadcast.
Yeah. No, it's obviously not easy to get a friend request through there.
Tim says, "Great show, guys. I got to go watch some paint dry." Good work. Claudia says, "Nez fired Ross on their show." Yes, you're fired, Ross.
I'm fired? I can go?
Yes, you are.
Because I'm starving. I'm just going to go get lunch. Here it is. You take over, Nez. You got to do a lot more than just read the comments. But, you'll be good. You'll be great.
Yeah, but I think, and I'd love to hear Kim says something, finally something constructive on this show. Tim says, totally, Nez, this will probably weed out the garbage for people who are in this for the long game. It's not a problem. I'm going to pin that. We finally have a sensible, sophisticated comment in the chat. I mean, Claudia is doing some great stuff too, but thank God, I think Tim's out of here, for the love of God. Hey, Dean Jonathan, gentlemen, wishing you a very Merry Christmas. Back to you, Dean. Yeah, so let us know. I mean, I agree with Kim. I think that these platforms, it's very important. And boy, isn't this this is one of those top Fortune 50 problems, right? I mean, how do we keep our feed? How do we keep our platforms, billion-dollar companies, YouTube, Google, Facebook, Instagram, right? How do we keep our platforms more on a quality merit-based system? It's interesting. Let's see how this works.
Yeah, and I mean, an interesting thing that Brian Fanzo was saying on his podcast yesterday, his live show on Facebook, he was talking about how he sees before the end of the year that before the end of 2018, that he doesn't even believe that there will be a news feed anymore. That things will be posted in groups, on pages, and a lot of your updates and things will go into stories. So he thinks that there won't be a news feed in a year. That's something I hadn't thought of, and nobody had mentioned in the predictions blog post. So that was the first time that came across to me, and I think it's interesting. I mean, basically, then you're just opting in, and you're curating yourself, other than what's in your stories, right? I mean, you're pretty much going to Ross and Nez, and you can find our Facebook page by going to rossandnez.com/Facebook, and you click the like button and you'll get notified when we go live. But you're going to our Facebook page yourself and saying, what do I want to look at when I'm on Facebook? I want to visit Ross and Nez's page. I want to visit Claudia's page. I want to visit Kim Doyle's page. I want to go to Nez Nation and see what's going on in his group. And
not really. You don't want to do that.
No, I don't. But I felt like after all the insults and digs, I needed to throw you a bone. So there.
Kim says something interesting here. Kim says, I'd be surprised if there was no news feed. It's a solid monetization model for FB ads. Yeah, I think that's Claudia says, I predicted there may be pay for opting in or different levels available in social media platforms. Nice, Claudia. And then Dean says, I think they need to stop focusing on just the big-time YouTubers. There's lots of smaller channels that are awesome. Yeah, I mean, maybe this really does level the playing field, and maybe this gives other, burgeoning kind of channels and content creators a chance. It's a really interesting move. It's a big move because I don't know if they could survive without the news feed. But here's the interesting thing. I think most of engagement takes place in the groups. I really do. I think most of the social media takes place in those groups. I mean, I know for me, going into our group, the Nez Nation group, communicating through our mastermind groups or various Facebook, it just seems like there's more of a community idea there, or a sort of concept of community, if you will. I don't, again, going back to organic traffic, I don't really my stuff doesn't get in front of my friends as much as I thought it would, or as much as I hoped it would. So we'll see what happens.
I think also that a lot of the engagement really takes place when people are watching live videos together and they chat with each other in the comments and react to what the discussion is, what they're watching, and so forth. So as video becomes more of more primary, I guess, is in the content that's being created. I guess what I'm struggling with here, where I'm sort of like back and forth on this, is where are you going to get the video? I guess you just get the notifications to people you opt into in your notifications, and that's it. You get notifications from groups, you get notifications from pages, but there is no news feed to scroll down. That would be interesting. I think the news feed is still kind of key to keeping people on Facebook. I mean, there's times I just go to Facebook and I'm scrolling the newsfeed because, it's like I'm passing the time before I have to get back to work or whatever, right? I mean, so.
Look at what Natalie has an interesting comment. It's attention seeking when you buy and beg for likes instead of producing great content. Yeah. Does the quality, does the cream rise to the top? If you're good enough, if you're talented enough, if you're now, there is strategies, okay? I believe in strategies, but I'm 1,000,000,000%, I think, more so advocating for actually putting in the work and trying to master your craft. Whether that craft is video, audio, blogging, writing, all three, live streaming. If your stuff's good enough, if you're talented enough, if you're consistent enough, you will do well. I believe so.
You sound like that Stuart Smalley bit. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough.
Oh, don't bring Al Franken into the fray. We could get in trouble here. We just lost 6 sponsors. Thanks a lot, Ross.
We love the ones who stayed with us. I believe IHOP's still with us, right?
Dean, you just made my life. Dean just mentioned my favorite comedian of all time. Dean Johnson said, Ross Inez, Dean Martin, and Jerry Lewis. Wait, who's Dean and who's Jerry Lewis? Hey, ladies. Dean, you're a true gentleman. I'm going to pin that comment. That's beautiful. But yeah, I think, Ross, Claudia says, like TV payment to access different channels one actually wants to watch. Really, consumers are being bombarded with crap. I agree with that. What do you think of that, Ross?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's where Facebook is kind of going with like the Creator app and Watch and all these different things. It's ways to start segmenting people who are who are serious about creating content, and then ultimately find a way for Facebook to monetize that content, whether it's making the end user pay, which I'm not sure is the easiest way to monetize it, or it's more likely dropping ads in and things like that. But I think giving people these tools, and I'm sure there are going to be more and more tools that Facebook rolls out, but getting that idea that you're a creator and you're creating real content and you're not just picking up your phone and going live just to get likes and hearts and things like that is where they want to go, because then they can monetize that and hopefully pull people away from YouTube to be watching longer videos and more substantive content. Which, of course, if you do prefer to watch your content on YouTube, you can find us at rossandnez.com/YouTube. rossandnez.com/YouTube. Please do subscribe. And we'll be posting our shows on YouTube. We already have 7 videos up on YouTube. And let's talk about something else, Nez, that I think is huge. We'll get to audio and podcasting and things like that a little bit later in the show. But Twitter and Bloomberg are partnering to put together the first 24/7 global news network delivered straight to social media.
Awesome.
And it's going to have live video. Eventually, I believe it'll be video it'll be live 24/7. But for now, it'll be live during business hours or whatever. And then there'll be video drop-ins and updates and things like that. So you can click to see your favorite stories or the stories that most interest you. But you can also watch a live news update. So it'll be like watching CNN or Fox or MSNBC in terms of the news aspect. I don't believe it's going to be talk shows and, political talk shows and things like that. But I think this is very interesting. And it's saying that, I think Twitter's biggest strength, right, is its ability to attract people when news is breaking, right? It's the first place people go to either talk about the news or find out what's going on, find out things before it's even been reported in the news and whatever. So this is bringing together kind of your watching the news experience with your talking about it experience. And Bloomberg's already had 3 shows on Twitter, and I imagine they've been successful because now they're going all in on creating video content for live distribution on Twitter.
I think this is a huge move by Twitter and Bloomberg, especially. I mean, Twitter has really been kind of negated in the conversation of the big social media platforms in the last year, 2 years. I got to be honest. I use Twitter to drive traffic to other platforms, my YouTube channel, Facebook, what have you, my website.
And not that well, I should add.
Yeah. I never said I did anything well.
You sent it over from Instagram.
Hey guys, in case you're wondering, Ross Brand is my friend.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my partner, folks.
Yeah. Your Instagram stuff is fantastic. Your stories and all that. Very seriously. But when you send that stuff
in the mail
from Instagram, it's like a half a sentence gets entered into the tweet, and then
and that's my problem. I don't know. I mean, Ross, I know you're more predominantly you got kind of a bigger sort of positioning on Twitter. I'm not using it probably as well as I should. And, Larry Snow asked a great question. Good to see Larry. Alfredo's in the house.
Hey, Alfredo.
Yeah, Yorne is in the house, if I'm pronouncing that right. I hope I am. Guys, you listening on the podcast, don't ever forget this. You can catch us live. You can catch us live on Facebook, and come and join us and be a part of the conversation. We'd really appreciate that. And by the way, if we haven't said it already, sharing is caring, guys. Please share this out because we're talking about some cutting-edge breaking news in the social media landscape. People would love to know this. And, just because it's us, it's Ross and Nez. How could you not share this? Hello.
Of course.
But I think it's interesting. Let me just comment on this, Ross, and I'd love your thoughts. I think that whenever I do want to know the news and find out what's going on, I do go to Twitter, right? And I think Trump has really helped Twitter out lately because Twitter probably should have been bought out a couple years ago by some company, Google, Facebook, whoever. I think that would have been a smart move a couple years ago, but now it looks like Twitter is finally going all in on their strengths, which is news, right? I mean, I'm not saying that there's not a social engagement power there and there's not a beautiful community there. I'm not using it in that aspect. I have to be honest. I'm using it just for news, really, and pushing traffic, and I'm not proud of that. It just is what it is. But Larry says, isn't Twitter already 24/7 news, and how is this different? You want to take that one, Ross?
Sure. I mean, this is bringing your cable TV news network to Twitter. So you learn about a news event, you learn about something happening and breaking, and no longer do you go, okay, I'm going to go check out, the website of one of the major news networks, or I'm going to go turn on the TV and learn more about it. You can actually see the live coverage right there from Bloomberg on Twitter. And I think it's a great way. Look, I do use Twitter probably more than you do, but I mean, I think Twitter needs some new life breathed into it. I mean,
yeah,
it's great. I think a lot of it is newsmakers and journalists kind of staying on top of each other and staying relevant and staying in the news and getting their message out. And that's all well and good. But I think that, having a reason for more people to go to Twitter and really bringing video and doubling down on their strength, which is the news and is live events and chatting about live events and live news. This is a very smart move by Twitter. And I think it's good for those of us who are interested in seeing live streaming grow.
Yeah.
Cheddar has been very, very prominent on Twitter. And that's more of, sort of a full service news program, right? They give you some headlines, but there's interviews with CEOs and there's talk and discussion and authors and different people on, and its focuses a lot around finance and tech and social media. And so this will be like your headline news, right? But your headline news on Twitter. So I think it's got a place and it works well with the other content that's on Twitter. And I think it's great. I mean, I'm very excited about this.
It's also great recognition, isn't it, Ross, for live streaming and the power of live video and where attention is going, isn't it? Like a big media company like Bloomberg partnering with a huge social media platform like Twitter, really understanding the culture. Isn't this like business 101? Understand the culture, understand your audience, understand how they're consuming content, how they're consuming information, and then provide that. I mean, that's like business 101, supply and demand, isn't it?
Yeah, and one great place for consuming information is iTunes, where you can find our podcast at rossandnez.com/iTunes, rossandnez.com/iTunes. So 24/7 news on social media. We're talking about on Twitter.
Live is the key.
Yes, very interesting play for Twitter. I think Twitter needs to do more with video beyond Periscopes, right? There's some wonderful shows on Periscope, but it's not enough, I think. And having this original content, remember, Twitter had NFL games on Thursday night, NFL games. They've got some sports talk shows and other kinds of live content that's featured fairly prominently. And I think this is a second life for Twitter, which is to become a live news-focused, event-focused platform. And of course, live streaming, live video, and all that is a huge part of it. And it's live streaming being delivered by bigger players now, not just individual accounts and users.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Alfredo says, is Twitter slowly dying? And then Larry says, so rather than watching Bloomberg on my computer, I'll watch it on Twitter. They tried the NFL. I think the average view was 3 seconds. Kim says, I avoid, it's interesting. Larry has a really great point. And Kim says, right, I avoid the news whenever possible. Twitter won't change that for me. Interesting. So Larry and Kim and Alfredo, these are amazing comments. And again, this is directly from the consumers, directly from the users, directly from the audience of, these are Larry, Kim, and Alfredo. They're on social media a lot, and they're great on there. So is Twitter listening? This is interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if Twitter really listens much or not.
They haven't really shown it.
It's the great listening app, right? I mean, it's the great place to go find the conversation in real time, and you see what your colleagues and your competitors and everybody is tweeting about and whatever. And yet, I'm not sure the app itself, the people running it are always listening. But people like Kim and Alfredo and Larry, who are active on social media and well informed of what's going on and have so many options, may not be the primary viewers of this, but people who are mobile, right, and they use Twitter. I mean, a lot of people when they're using their phone, don't even know that there's a browser app on their phone. I mean, their phone is just social media. So when news breaks, they know they can hit the Twitter button and see what's going on. And so if they can watch a video by just hitting the Twitter button and getting the latest news coverage, I think people will do that. There's also, of course, huge numbers of people in developing countries and countries where access to news isn't quite as free and open as it is in the U.S. So there's potentially, worldwide reach of users, whether there's, advertisers are looking at those markets or not. I'm sure they will be, or I'm sure they'll find a way to monetize. So I think there's a lot bigger. There are a lot of people I know who have Twitter accounts who don't do anything on social media, and they just follow their favorite, news outlets and journalists and sports teams and things like that, and they never tweet and they never retweet and they never do anything other than scroll through a news feed that's highly curated to bring them information from the people and the organizations that they're interested in. And so if they can get some video on the subject and get a news anchor talking a little bit more in depth and get video from the scene of the event and so forth, I think for people like that, it's going to be a major pull.
Yeah. I think a really important question to ask is, why is it that Facebook has gone in the direction that they've gone in, which is up, 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 right? The number one platform. And why is it that Twitter seems to, as Kim says so aptly, why does it seem like Twitter's always playing catch up? Is it the leadership? Is it the, initiation of features? Is it the lack of listening to the community? Is it the lack of awareness? It's interesting. I mean, I think you can look at these two behemoths and ask yourself, and our listeners and our viewers can ask, why is it that this one went like this, vertical, and the other one seems to be going the other way?
Right.
Reverse engineering and finding out why. It's interesting.
Well, I think a lot of what people were doing on Twitter was sharing blog posts, right? They share links to their blogs, they share links to articles of interest, I think for a lot of people, it became kind of a game where it's just like, what do I think people would be interested in? I've got to find content. I've got to find content. So it's people sharing content that they don't read for people who aren't clicking through to see that content, but are retweeting it or liking it because they like the person and want to get on their radar, or they want to reciprocate, right? So I think there's a lot of stuff that's being shared. I mean, there's a lot of flat out bots and automated accounts where there's nothing going on other than what's programmed. But even within real people are always looking for things. For years have been looking for, what am I going to share on Twitter? Yeah. And they go, okay, this is from a reasonable source. This is a friend of mine. This is whatever. Okay, I'll share this. But there really isn't a lot of discussion. And I think people have sort of opted out of the idea that, okay, we have so much content to choose from that what comes up in my Twitter feed or notifications isn't necessarily the first or second or third place I'm going to go looking for content. Twitter chats remain vibrant for places for discussion, for learning. When there's an event, like not just a news event, but a conference, anything like that, Twitter's a great place for people to stay up with what's going on, to share their thoughts, to keep the discussion going. Of course, breaking news, politics, sports are big discussions on Twitter. But as far as the old, like, you've got a new blog post, let me tweet it out 3 times and, magically I'm going to get hundreds of views. It's not happening, I don't think, for most people.
I want to go into the chat really quickly, Ross.
Sure.
There's some great conversations happening here. Claudia says, when we look at our analytics, there's serious hits and follow-through coming from Twitter. Very interesting. Hazel says, let's keep in mind, Twitter only gave you 140 characters to work with, so the strategy for Twitter must be different than FB. Absolutely. And Kim says, do you think Twitter waited too long to start offering advertising? Also, much slower to innovate. And Chris has a great point. Chris Salata, I hope I'm saying that right. Part of the problem is that depending on your market, some Twitter users focus on how many followers rather than tweeting quality or making real connections. This is what a great group. Thank you guys for the amazing comments. We've got a chat room full of grand inquisitors and intelligent people and marketers and social media creators. So this is a great conversation. I love what you guys are saying.
The other thing Twitter for me has been great for is when we kind of go live spontaneously, more or less, so we don't do a lot of pre-live promotion. But for my scheduled interview shows, Twitter's been great for driving traffic to the shows. But that's because I tag people who I think would be interested in watching that show or who have been guests on the show or whatever. And so that's effective for me, but that isn't, I don't know that that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of, is it an effective place for wider marketing? Because certainly when you publish a blog post, I don't think you can just be tagging a bunch of people every time you.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Once a week or once every other week, you tag people because you think they may be interested in a live show or something. That's one thing, but I don't think you can do it when you just, hey, I'm sharing an article. I'm going to tag, I'm going to tweet it 6 times and tag, 10 people each or whatever. I don't know that it's going to go over well with most of your community.
Alfredo says, is there a plug for IHOP sponsoring you guys?
Yeah, in fact, we've got Nez's syrupy, mushy segment coming up before the end of the show, right?
Dun, dun, dun.
Which is brought to you by IHOP. I mean, before we get into audio content, do you want to go mushy now, or do you want to wait till afterwards?
I'm gonna save my mush.
Okay.
I'm lacking in mush reservoir, so I'm gonna save that for now. But look at what Kim said. Kim says vanity metrics, likes, followers, etc. don't mean much anymore, in my honest opinion. I don't know. It's interesting, Kim. I have to agree and disagree. I do think a lot of brands and companies that are looking to sponsor creators, unfortunately, because I agree, there's so much gamifying, and I think that's the sort of the whole, kind of theme of this show, is kind of the antithesis of gamifying. Is that I think they look at those numbers. They really do look at, like, if this guy has 100,000 followers on Twitter, he must know what he's talking about, or she must know what he's talking about. When you look closely, you see they've got 1 like or 0 likes, 0 retweets, 1 retweet, no engagement. It's interesting. I don't know. It seems to me, Kevin's in the house. Good to see you, Kevin.
Hey, Kevin Black.
It seems to me that that hasn't gone away. I hope it does, and I hope more people feel like you, Kim. I don't know if that's quite the case. Now, for mush segments, no.
Oh, you want to get mushy now?
No, I don't want to get mushy now.
You're not going to get mushy over.
It's really difficult. It's really difficult to put mush on the spot.
Yeah.
That has to come. If it doesn't come organically, all right, well, I'm an organic musher.
You still have time to think of something to cry about later.
It has to come from deep within.
But I think you made a very important point, though, and not the mushy stuff. But
okay, thanks.
When I was still listening, you had an important point.
Oh, thank you very much.
And that is, it really, to a lot of people who would sponsor or would purchase content or whatever, they're really just looking at the number of followers you have as a shorthand. And I mean, we can all wish it was different, but we've all heard things like, if you want to get a book published, 20,000 followers. You want to get a TV show, 100,000 to 1 million followers, or what? Yeah, I mean, all these things they're not hard and set in stone rules or whatever, but they're not looking through. A lot of people, unfortunately, aren't looking through to see whether you get engagement or not. And that's why you do have people who game the system, and then, a lot of times those people get called out on it and their reputation starts sinking, and then it doesn't matter how many followers they have, they're not going to get what they hope to get out of gaming the system. And speaking of that, going along with Facebook, who owns Instagram seems to be cracking down now on accounts that use click farms and things like that. You ever been to a click farm? They don't harvest corn.
I was raised on a click farm back in the 1800s.
You were?
Yes, I was. It was a very abysmal lifestyle, but I did my work. I put my head down, and I did my best. I was lucky to get a bed in the barn.
Is that something you feel mushy about?
As a matter of fact, this mushy moment brought to you by IHOP.
That's for the latest specials at IHOP. Go to rossandnez.com/IHOP.
Yes. Get the Ross and Nez special. It comes with cranberry syrup and a side of subscribe to us later.
Yes, subscribe to us later on iTunes, which you can do at rossandnez.com/iTunes, rossandnez.com/iTunes. And if you enjoy the show and this conversation, definitely leave us a review. We'd love to know what you think of the show, what you like about it. Please do leave us a review on iTunes, rossandnez.com/iTunes. Let's switch over to audio content.
Yeah.
Because I know this is, speaking of iTunes, a big focus of our content creation with Ross and Nez, as our other shows were really, the focus was all on the live show. And in this show, while we are definitely focused on having a great experience for people watching live. We also realize that there are people who will never watch us live, who don't even watch shows on Facebook or video on Facebook, period. And so the ability to take our content and put it on iTunes and other podcast channels is huge to reach new audiences and give even people who would like to or often do watch us on Facebook Live a chance to take this with them and listen at their leisure. I love when people say at their leisure.
At their leisure. I say leisure. Is that bad?
No, I mean if you say it, then it's got to be the correct pronunciation.
It's got to be against the law.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean that's a big thing for 2018. We were both at Vid Summit when Gary Vaynerchuk made what I thought was the most memorable line that he said in his speech, which audio is the next, or voice is the next frontier, because you can take it with you, because you can download it. It doesn't take up a lot of space on your mobile device. You don't have to be connected to listen to it. You don't have to look at something. You can listen to it while you drive, while you go about your work, while you're working in another browser. You can just have the audio going. What are your thoughts about where audio is heading and whether audio should be an essential part of your content creation in 2018?
Yeah, I would love to I'd love to hear what our people in the chat say as well. Comment on this, on what do you think? What a controversial thing to say, too, at a Vid Summit, a right. Summit that's all about video creation. And boy, Gary, he loves to be controversial, doesn't he?
I know, right? Never mind what you guys are doing with video. I'm telling you, audio is where.
Yeah. Hey, all you guys who think you're video creators, you're all a bunch of, no. But here's the thing that's interesting is that I think that radio should have died already. It's not quite dead yet, but think of the comparison between podcasting, the immediacy, the ability to pause, the ability to watch it whenever you want to. You won't ever miss another, show again. You don't have to record anything. You can put it on any single device. If you compare radio to podcasting, and now you've got Alexa skills, Alexa Home, Google Home, you've got all these abilities to put it on pretty much any other device. And the fact that you can do two things at once. When you're watching video, you got to watch the video. When you're watching some content in a live stream or a video stream, you have to really pay attention to it. Whereas in audio form, you can clean your garage while you're listening to Ross and Nez. I can't think of a better activity when you're listening to Ross and Nez. You can clean out your toilet. I mean, more apropos. No, I'm kidding. But you can do so. You can be at the gym. You can drive. I know when I'm driving, I used to listen to talk radio all the time. I used to listen to the radio all the time, way before, even this internet thing, it was really a thing. And I used to hate the fact that I missed all the good segments, or I was busy with this, or work got in the way, or yada, yada, yada. But now all I do, I don't listen to the radio ever. All I do is pretty much listen to podcasts on my way to work, when I'm driving, or even when I'm just driving to the store. My wife will be like, "Hey, honey, go to the store. We need some milk," or what have you. And, since I don't want to talk to any of my neighbors, I'll drive all the way. And I'll listen to a podcast. It's nice. It's serene. It's calming. It's easy. It's convenient. Again, what is technology's number one advantage? Technology's number one service is convenience, I think.
Confusing people and making them feel disconnected from their neighbors. Oh, yeah. but convenience would be.
I live in Southern California. We don't talk to our neighbors.
You don't talk to nobody asks their neighbors for anything.
Nobody talks to their neighbors in Southern California.
Well,
I don't even know. I could have a serial killer living next to me. I don't know either.
Well, hopefully, as long as you're alive, you're doing okay then.
I'm sure there's a lot of people in my neighborhood who wouldn't mind if I was offed. That's the kind of effect I have.
Well, that's fantastic. Way to promote yourself, Ned.
Sometimes I want myself offed.
Jenny Q is here. Welcome, Jennifer.
Q. How are you, Jenny? Good to see you.
Were you just singing?
Yeah. Was I singing?
Do you want to sing in your mushy?
It just kind of came out. I'm sorry. It just came out naturally. So
yeah, you know what? You know why radio stinks for the most part? I mean, not all radio, but a lot of radio isn't good.
Yeah, let me backtrack that just for a second. I do still think, okay, when I said radio is dead, I just think that Jenny goes, do you guys coordinate? You missed the beginning of the show, Jenny. It was a riot.
Yes, and welcome to our holiday special.
You know, actually, Jenny knows fashion. Jenny, compare our shirts. Doesn't mine look a million times better and cleaner and newer? Whereas Ross's looks like he should be washing a Camaro with that shirt.
Camaro.
But here's the thing. I don't know why I went 1980s. Are Camaros still around?
I have no idea.
But I think let me just backtrack. Radio is not dead, but why listen to radio? I mean, even you can have there's apps now where you can watch your radio programs when you want now. I just think podcasting.
Listen, not watch.
What did I say? What did I say?
Watch.
Whatever. But you can.
I'm going to watch it on the podcast.
It's all about convenience.
Unless it's a video podcast.
There is a video.
Watch
those. There is video podcasting. But
yes,
here's the thing.
We're not. We don't have a video podcast on iTunes yet. So
not yet.
Until we do, it really doesn't exist in our.
Okay, somebody just your nay said that Camaros.
Oh, Nicole. Nicole is here.
Is it okay, Nicole? I'm sorry, I was mispronouncing that. Okay, great. Yeah, so Camaros are still around.
Who you were calling your nay or something like that?
Yeah, I thought it was. I'm sorry. I must have. I apologize. My fault. I think I got that wrong. Jenny says I'm not touching that. the consummate pro. What a smart move. Yeah. We don't mind. You can tell us truthfully. But
yeah. Please tell us truthfully whether you agree with Nez's insult or not.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing: is I don't think radio's dead. I just think that when you compare the two, there's no comparison. I just think podcasting has got it. I think it's so much more. Again, what technology banks on is convenience, and podcasting is super convenient.
Well, I think one of the reasons that radio also is losing its appeal is that all these stations have pretty much been bought by a few major companies, and what made radio good was the local aspect, right? The local shows, the local news, local talk, and all that. And a lot of radio stations are pretty much just running off a satellite. They're being programmed by algorithms and pulling stuff off of a satellite that's the same going to 300 stations across the country. And so it's so homogenized and sort of uninteresting that why not listen to a podcast on the subject of your choice rather than being fed something which is also being fed to everyone.
That's another thing, is it gives authority, it gives control to the consumer, whereas before it was more you had to just kind of it was just what you could get pretty much. You had no real power or autonomy. Look at what Kim says. Kim says, I consume more audio content than any other type of content. I mean, Ross, you come from radio. What's your thought? I mean, you have a background in radio. Do you see podcasts as pretty much usurping or taking over and radio just dwindling, or is it just a completely different medium? What are your thoughts?
I think it's a different medium. I mean, I guess when the technology gets to the point where you don't even really, you can stream live audio without, you get your 5G connection and you're driving in your car, and like for now, you still listen to audio for you still listen to radio for breaking news, for talk about something that just happened recently, for live sports. You got to get into your car and go do an errand while the game is on. People will listen to a live sporting event while they're in the, I mean, the radio is for when you're in your car at this point, largely, unless you really have a favorite show and you don't want to miss it, because even your favorite shows you can consume on podcasting apps for the most part. You can consume as a podcast on your own time, at your own time, and unless you're somebody who wants to call in live or whatever.
Do you think that people are not listening to podcasts in the car as much, or they're listening more radio?
No, I think they are listening to podcasts in the car. I think there are a lot of people who podcasting's their primary form of audio, and then there are other people who, there's a local show or a national host and they enjoy that, and when they're in their car, during morning drive or afternoon drive, that's what they're going to listen to. And then for other people, it depends, right? If there's a game on they want to listen to, they'll listen to that. If there's some breaking news they want to follow, they'll listen to that. I think it all depends. I mean, one of the things that makes me put the radio on is when I have to be somewhere at a certain time and traffic isn't good. I'm going to put the radio on and see what's going on with the traffic. I mean, but that's it, but I don't generally sit there and listen to the news over and over and over again on, a 24-hour news radio or whatever. I'm going to put on some music, or I'm going to listen to a podcast. And, right now, a great choice would be Ross and Nez, and you can find it at rossandnez.com/iTunes, rossandnez.com/iTunes. Subscribe, leave us a review. We appreciate all the support that we have gotten through the first 7 and now 8 episodes of Ross and Nez. And I would like to say that this has been fun, Nez.
You'd like to?
You'd
like to say that, or you want to say that?
It's been great. It's been great. This has been a lot of fun.
Always.
I cannot believe that we showed up with basically versions of the same shirt. And since it's sort of green and we've got these great red frames here, for those watching on Be Live.
By the way, I've got a final mushy moment.
Our holiday.
I've got a final mushy moment if you're ready for it.
Is it holiday related, or?
It's always holidays. In my brain, in my head, in my cranium, there's always a holiday.
This is under the mistletoe, if anybody.
I'm under the mistletoe. Somebody give me a kiss, will you? Not Ross. Thank God.
No, please, no.
I kiss
go ahead.
you, Ross.
You get to your mushy moment.
I want to say that it's always a pleasure with my cohort, my compatriot, my comrade, my partner in crime, Mr. Ross Brand. I want to wish everybody a happy holidays. And this is just something I want to share with you. What an amazing time, right? What an amazing opportunity where if you're good enough, if you're talented enough, if you're consistent enough, you can create video content, you can distribute it, you can cross-purpose it into a podcast, you can cross-purpose that into a blog on Medium or LinkedIn or on your website, and get that kind of awareness. I mean, I'm telling you guys, if you put in the time and the energy, or if you have somebody that you can hire to do that, I think the top 3 platforms you need to be on this. You've probably heard this a million times. This is just another reminder. This is what Ross and I do, right? We create a live broadcast. We put the audio on iTunes. We create the video content and SEO the crap out of it for YouTube. You guys can do this too. And then we put it on a blog post on the website, publish it on LinkedIn and Medium. Getting that kind of content distribution as a business brand creator was impossible 10 years ago. Now it's just unbelievable. So I want everybody here to, take this information and apply it. Try to take this impetus that I'm giving you and put it to good use and watch what happens. Getting that kind of awareness now, it's unparalleled. Everybody here who's watching can do it. Everybody here who's listening can do it.
That really wasn't that mushy. You didn't even do that. You didn't even do that soft talking that you did.
I didn't do the soft talking. I thought I had
your Instagram videos.
All right, take 2. No, I'm kidding. But
here we go. We're rolling, people.
We're rolling. Yes. Yeah. Do me a favor and burn that shirt, will you, Ross? No, it's always a blast, and I wish everybody watching, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you, Claudia, Kim, Jennifer, Larry, Kevin, Nicole, Alfredo, everybody who's watched and been watching, and those of you listening on iTunes. If we don't see you before then, I wish everybody a prosperous, happy holiday and a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, happy whatever you are. If you're a sun worshiper, God bless you. I wish everybody the best.
Thank you, Nez. It's been fun. I'll say that definitively.
Thank you.
That was a great.
You were hedging before.
That was a great take 2 for the mushy segment. Happy holidays.
Did I get quiet? Did I put in the quietness?
A little bit, but you really were very forceful, and that was good. You owned it. You owned the mic. That's what we want. It's almost a mic drop moment there. So almost. Yeah, you like how I couch everything, so I can take it back later.
So
I say something
it's
nice
so
about
good.
Ned.
I
just want to make sure I can step back from it.
Brutal, just brutal. I'm gonna go cry in the corner for about an hour now.
This has been a blast. Truly and sincerely, thanks everybody for joining us. We will be back again with another episode of Ross and Nez. Have a happy holidays and a happy new year, everybody.